Galactic date 21st revolution of the core world, 7th quarter, 15E. Captain John of the GCSV Zephyr report. We've entered the Terra sector 7 cycles ago, and so far, nothing worthy of note has come up on our scanners, aside from a gas giant with a beautifully arranged ring system on the Sol system. This system, according to the records, was once home to a spacefaring civilization, eons ago. A species who has since been extinguished and whose only mark in galactic recorded history has been its name, humans, or as they called themselves collectively, humanity. Not much is known about their culture, their technology, or even their physiology. Such was the case with most precursor races. All we know is they existed, as most had left traces of their once bustling society across multiple worlds. The Juk-Juk, for example, a precursor species to the modern Jukir, had a vast empire that dominated over the black hole Sagittarius A*, and had even begun the construction of a massive gigastructure around the black hole, in an attempt to gather its energy, in an attempt to become a galactic dominant species. The Juk-Juk Empire existed in the 7th era of galactic history, which roughly equated to 10.000 years ago, and all we had of their existence were the remains of the structure around the supermassive black hole and a ruined ecumenopolis world in the core systems. The reason for their downfall was attributed to a massive civil war, although some galactic historians defended the idea of an external force destroying the empire. As we leave the ringed gas giant behind, another massive orb forms in the distance. According to the records, this planet was called Jupiter, in honor of an ancient deity the humans worshipped in their primitive days. Still, no signs of civilization, not even a base or a gas collector in the dense atmosphere. The humans were ancient, but I had expected more of their empire to stand the test of time. But such is the price to pay for the passing of eons. Time erodes all, and the humans were deep within the river of time. 100.000 years deep. I just hope their ancient homeworld stands. Our vessel is traveling at an amazing V8 and quickly leaves Jupiter behind. And finally, our sensors start pinging, alerting the crew that we had found what we had been looking for. Technological traces. In particular, a faint radio frequency was broadcasting from a blue world across an asteroid belt. We set our radio receiver towards the planet, and a mechanical voice said in perfect galactic common, "Welcome to the inner Terra sanctum. This is the Mars Advanced Defense System, or MADS for short. We are a partially developed AI with the main purpose of defending Earth, or, as the galactic community records state, Terra. Please announce what your intentions are or prepare to be destroyed." The main science officer, Cuff, was in shock at the emission, and as such I pressed the communicator and announced ourselves. "This is Captain John of the galactic community's scientific vessel Zephyr. We are on an archaeological assignment by the custodian matrix to document any signs of precursor civilizations, such as the civilization of humanity. Your purpose is a noble one, Fedarian. We accept your reasoning, and as such give you permission to enter the sanctum." How do they know what species I am? The Fedarian only became a spacefaring civilization 70 years ago. I prepared to question the AI, but the communication was ended, and a beacon lit up in the distance, and I immediately knew where the light was coming from. The birthplace of humanity, Terra. Galactic date 8th revolution of the core world, 8th quarter, 15E. Captain John of the GCSV Zephyr report. It has been 1 Terran month since we first landed in the human homeworld, and the scientists are going wild, finding new signs of humanity every other day on this otherwise normal temperate world. Yesterday, they discovered that the location where we had landed the survey shuttle was an ancient stadium or arena of sorts. It must have been a building of truly gargantuan proportions to survive for so long. According to the main science officer, Terra had a volatile tectonic crust, which caused continental drifts to occur over extremely long periods. According to Cuff, Terra at the height of human power must have been extremely different from what it looks like now, which made archaeology extremely difficult, as the locations of sites shifted on top of being buried under millions of years of sediments. The planet was home to thousands of species of both flora and fauna, some of which were predatory by nature, but thanks to our advanced armament and shielding, posed no real concern to our teams. The biggest discovery so far, however, is the one we have just dug up. The humans spoke Galactic Common, and among their many languages, their primary writing system was almost the same as the Galactic typing. This has led some archaeologists to hypothesize that galactic common is an offshoot of what humans called English, and that it's a remnant of when the humans were at the height of their power and their influence was felt widely across the galaxy. We have also made some progress on the way of life of humanity, or at least the type of government their civilization favored. They were called the United Nations of Earth, and throughout their early spacefaring days, the planets were colonized by singular nations rather than the species as a whole. However, after a major civil war that spread to hundreds of worlds and killed billions, the humans rectified their government and became what the Galcom knows today as the Terran hegemony. Similar to the previous government, where the leaders of each country on Earth elected a paragon to lead them, whom they called the Prime Chancellor. The citizens held most of their freedoms. However, the countries were only regional honorifics, and the global government abolished the borders and unified the species. Their first encounter with another species is also recorded in the findings. They met the Helixa, a peaceful race of avians who resided in the closest system to their own, Proxima Centauri, on the planet bearing the same name as the species, Helixa. Rather than colonizing the technologic inferior species, the humans took them under their protection, which in the end may have been the wrong choice. As during the human civil war, the Helixa homeworld was destroyed and turned into a nuclear wasteland. It appears the raising of Helixa was the principal catalyst for the shift in their government, and the extinction of the Helixa people awoke something deep within the human collective psyche. Something that had always been present in most of their cultures. The records end with the Terran hegemony symbol floating, a winged creature with its wings spread wide open. Above the creature, we can read duty, honor, glory, and below we can read something written in another language, but one our translating device recognizes immediately as Latin. Lux in tenebris, the light in the dark. I must admit that in all of my years serving the Galactic Community Navy, I have never felt a surge of emotions as I did upon reading those words. And as I looked around, I could see the crew was all feeling the same way. We were a rather diverse crew, with the effective personnel aboard the Zephyr and the archaeology investigators and the military command, such as myself, totaling 200 people, comprised of more than 30 different species, with the most numerous one being my own, the Fidarians. Why the words of a dead species were affecting all of us so much, I could not say, but something important was standing in front of us. Something most species didn't have, an ideal. Galactic date 13th revolution of the core world, 9th quarter, 15E. Captain John of the GCSV Zephyr report. Terra has proven to be a treasure hoard regarding insights into the human civilization. However, as we delve deeper into their history, the more we realize how complex they were. According to their records, before achieving FTL, humans were completely divided and almost destroyed their planet over political philosophies. And they would have done it were it not for the enemy. The records aren't clear on what this enemy was, but it was a threat big enough to unite humanity into a single, steadfast, united front. This was all prior to the human civil war that destroyed Helixa. It was at a time when the humans were a young species. We have also found some visual recordings of human stories. We are unsure if these are factual or fictional, but some show humans capable of feats that should be impossible considering the biology and physiology of humans. These special humans were regarded as heroes, paragons of human beliefs of justice and order, or so it would seem. It seems odd that such an advanced species would debase themselves to fictional storytelling rather than factual historical recordings for entertainment. However, one of the lower science officers has found something groundbreaking concerning the human influence of the galactic mythos. Several civilizations' mythologies can be traced to human figures. The Ataraxes hero Ardur was inspired by a tale the humans appear quite fond of about an ancient king from their feudal age named Arthur Pendragon. The Kikare's goddesses, Pers and Funi, bear a striking similarity to the human goddess Persephone. I can't help but laugh whenever a scientist discovers another link between ancient human mythology and some species' religion. No doubt, some would use this information to legitimize their beliefs. After all, the humans themselves were considered divine by some species, as were all other precursors. But while the other precursors were usually quite well documented, or at least as much as an extinct civilization millions of years old can be, the humans were barely present in the records. We knew they existed because there were signs. But before this archaeological venture, the connection between humanity and the current galactic community was unheard of. I wonder why that was. Humans appear to be one of the most influential and yet one of the most mysterious precursors, and we still haven't discovered the reason for their downfall and extinction. My first mate and lead archaeo-architecture expert, Lieutenant Hollark O'Diarrhea, has told me an intact structure has been discovered, buried deep beneath the earth. Deeper than time would bury anything. And somehow it defies the proposed continental drift data on where a structure could have been. We are flying to the structure tomorrow, but the words Hollark said still echo in my mind. According to the early analysis, this structure is newer. However, this is not the concerning part, said the slimy first mate. John, this is a vault, and the readings indicate that there is sentient life within the vault. Advanced, sentient, biological life. Humans. Galactic date, 17th revolution of the core world, 9th quarter 15 GE. Archaeological survey report by lead archaeo-architecture expert Hollark. Since the discovery of the vault door, no progress has been made on the breaching operation. Despite initially attempting less dangerous methods, we eventually realized that for us to enter the vault, we would have to use our full arsenal. This, however, has also been proven to be in vain. We unloaded 7 antimatter rounds into the door, and it didn't even scratch the material. Upon trying to perform a molecular scan of the door, the results came inconclusive. It seems that whatever that door is made of, we have no record of it. During the breaching efforts, both my team and the Archaeotech team have been hard at work categorizing the structure. It is a raven black door, metallic in nature, standing at an impressive height of 50 meters and 35 meters wide. It is completely unadorned, which contrasts heavily with all other archaeological sites we have found in Terra, where buildings are often highly detailed with ornate engravings or exterior decoration. The structure is warm to the touch, and readings suggest it's at a constant 309 K, but no power source from the outside has been discovered, nor any significant power signature that would explain such phenomena. The Archaeotech team has suggested introducing the bare skin of a willing subject to come into contact with the door, as it might have some sort of biometric lock, which is where my second-in-command in the archaeo-architecture and lifelong friend Eliara Deluran becomes significant to the report. She volunteered to touch the structure with her bare skin, which would possibly mean exposure to unknown bacteria and virologic contaminants. The prospect of contamination, however, didn't seem to bother her, and on the morning of the 16th, under the surveillance of the captain, the entire archaeo-architecture team, the Archaeotech team, and the archaeobiology team, Eliara touched the door. What happened next was something I can barely explain with words. When her skin touched the door, a blue glow engulfed the entire dig site and the door spoke. Custodian Matrix Subdivision 13, Underworld Initiative, Cerberus Protocol. Humanoid DNA detected. Analyzing Homo sapiens similarity. 99.99% similarity. Cerberus Protocol is disabled. Initiating Orpheus Protocol. Awakening Hades. As the mechanical voice of the custodian matrix we all recognized went quiet, the door vanished instantly without moving or sliding or anything. It dematerialized, or something similar according to the Archaeotech experts. We were all caught off guard by the custodian matrix's robotic voice. The custodian matrix was an ancient AI that had been a part of the galactic community for longer than any of the current members. It had seen multiple galactic eras go by, and during cataclysmic events, it would send automated aid vehicles or rescue missions. The species that faced extinction were usually virtually saved from such a fate by being relocated to the custodian matrix Elysian Field Sanctuary, a planet that was orbiting a black hole located in a cluster just outside of the galaxy. It had been the custodian matrix that had issued the request for this exact archaeologic mission. So how could it be here? This question and many others were answered almost immediately when a projection of a 4-meter human appeared in front of us. It was a male, with dark skin and almond eyes. He had long hair, tied up similarly to how the Hussarak warriors tied up their hair before heading into battle. "Welcome, descendant," his voice echoed throughout the dig site, a bass undertone making our insides vibrate with its intensity. "My name is Masai Nyanga. I was the Prime Chancellor and Chief Executive Officer of the Underworld Initiative during the final days of the Terran hegemony. Before the cataclysm, I, alongside my colleagues, downloaded a virtual copy of our consciousnesses into a new AI we called the Custodian Matrix. It had 13 subdivisions, each with a different specialization and all interconnected, aside from the last one. Subdivision 13 had a one-way connection with the rest of the matrix. That means that it is aware of everything the other 12 know, but none of the other 12 can detect anything about the 13th. It is also capable of sending commands and overriding the other 12 on occasions of great need. What do you mean, descendant? What do you mean? Eliara was confused. Of course she was. We all were. All in due time, said the man, gesturing for us to go through the door. His clothes were familiar from the recordings we had found during the last month, and he had a tired expression, as if he had been awake for too long. As we stepped past the doorway, we heard the custodian matrix's voice again, announcing loudly, "Underworld Initiative engaging Hades Protocol. Eurydice system is active. Awakening Persephone. Galactic date, 17th revolution of the core world, 9th quarter, 15 GE. Continuation of the Archaeological Survey report by lead archaeoarchitecture expert Hollerk. The interior of the main vault corridor was elegant but ascetic, devoid of any decoration, with off-white walls with a slight inclination. The ceiling was also the same off-white color as the walls, and the two merged seamlessly. The crew composed of around 40 people walked and took notes in their devices as they went along, excitedly whispering to each other. Something about the room felt eerily monastic, as if it was meant to be walked in silence. In front of the group, the projection of the human Messiah floated, with his arms behind his back. He had spoken little since his introduction, responding to our questions with vague answers and promising that all the answers would be answered soon. The corridor was longer than any of us expected, and after walking for nearly 1 hour, we reached a door, 5 meters tall with the words Hall of Remembrance written above it. As we moved to open the door, a female voice echoed inside our minds, drowning out all thought. Messiah might have opened the vault, but you are not yet ready for the treasure it holds. I will be the one to decide if you may continue. The door started glowing with a silver hue that slowly concentrated into the figure of a human that stepped out of the metallic surface of the door. A human female, with long red hair tied up in a braid hanging in front of her left shoulder, was floating in front of us. Her eyes were a deep, penetrating green, with specks of brown, like the forested world of Vernoff Prime. Unlike the man, her choice of clothes felt a lot more liberating, with a long, flowing, pale green dress with a pattern of flowers and her feet bare. Messiah turned to us and coughed. This is Dr. Shaban Nanga, Doctor of Psionics and History. She is also my wife. The humans had psionic abilities? None of the data we had studied indicated such a thing about humanity. Sure, some of their fictional stories displayed people with paranormal abilities, but all records indicated fabricated effects for the viewing pleasure of the audience. As I was thinking this, the woman looked directly at me and smiled widely, her pearly white teeth shining on her pale, freckled face. My kind as a whole did not possess what we generally call psionic abilities, despite many attempts to genetically offer ourselves as a species those gifts. However, some of us were born with gifts that, if trained, could develop into proper psionics. We used their DNA when... The woman stopped her chain of thought, shook her head and mouthed silently, "Soon. My wife used her abilities to develop the vault we're in now, as well as the consciousness download system that enhanced the custodian matrix. She also came up with the naming system for this vault and many others, based on several mythologies of our ancestors. There are a total of 12 vaults scattered around the planet, each one with a unique purpose. The one we're about to enter was the first to be constructed and the last one to be closed." The woman floated down to us and shrunk in size until she was around 2 meters. She looked at the captain and walked towards him, her steps producing no sound, her flowing dress moving as if it was floating with almost no gravity. She stopped in front of him and reached out her hand. You're Captain John Fallis. You were a fighter pilot during the Second Oramite War. Honorably discharged afterwards with the Sagittarian Medal of Glory. I have seen your life through the billion eyes of the custodian matrix. I have seen your father, Fallis Bunrar, working diligently to provide you and your brother the best chances he could. I have seen all of those who came before, and I see them in your eyes. Her voice was echoing through the hallway despite her soft tone. But those are the ones who came before, and that is what you did. Let me see who you are. If you are worthy, you may join me in remembrance. Remembrance of whom? Said the captain with an unsure expression. The man floated next to me, his arms still behind his back, his face holding a heavy, solemn expression. I stared at him for a few seconds before looking back at the captain and Dr. Shaban, and my jaw dropped. Tears were flowing slowly down her cheeks, shining mournfully, and her mind's voice echoed her sadness. Everyone?